I believe I have consumed too much of the devil's lettuce in my life because I have very few memories of when I was young. Like, very few memories of maybe before like 10, 11, or 12. Okay, maybe if the therapist is listening, they're going to tell me I'm repressing things. I believe it's that I smoked too much in my past or something. Something. Sorry, mom and dad, if you are listening. But I really have very few memories. So when I'm...
So the boys are back, the boys are back, the boys are back. Firstly, let's start the order of proceedings with a congratulatory message to these folk, the new treble winners in the land of Europe. So that's the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the long sought after Champions League. Rodri, you goats. Our treble is better than yours because we beat you along the way. United fans, I hope you're listening to this podcast. That was distinctly mentioned just for you. So shout out to City. Mike,
Congratulations. I must say, I was actually more impressed by Inter in the final than I thought. I thought it was gonna be a run over. And they actually did all right. Inter did all right.
They did really well. Some questionable, let's call them shots on target, because they didn't end up in goal. But Lukaku has other things going for him in life where he's winning. Today's focus is on the topic of big wins and I guess things that you didn't think you'd accomplish in your lifetime. It has brought us in a very roundabout way into consideration for bucket lists.
Yes.
Bucket lists are something that we always hear about, and generally when someone's passed on, we also look at how to make the most of each day, and it led me to a question. So, Ty, I want to pose this one to you, is if you were to enter a library, right, and you picked out a book from the shelf, it had no cover, it had no title, it was a black binded book, you open it up into the first page, and you start reading through it, get straight into it about the beginning of the story. And as you read on and on and on, you notice that this story aligns exactly with your life.
Yeah.
And it is your life being told in a story. The first question is, would you read it to the end?
Okay. So, good question. It's a great question, by the way. I want to first premise this by saying I'm going to answer this question in the way, like, because you can get like super philosophical and be like, oh, but if I read it, will I be changing? Let's ignore all that. Okay. So we won't go down that road. We're talking pure, like, you read it, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You go.
Your story's written, it's whether you want to know about it.
Yeah. And regardless of by reading it, you're making it true or untrue. We'll leave that alone. The second thing I want to say before I answer this question is, I believe I have consumed too much of the devil's lettuce in my life because I have very few memories of when I was young. Like, very few memories of maybe before like 10, 11, or 12. Okay, maybe if the therapist is listening, they're going to tell me I'm repressing things. I believe it's that I smoked too much in my past or something. Sorry, mom and dad, if you are listening. But I really have very few memories. So when I'm reading this story, I realize it's actually going to take me a minute to put together that it's my story. Like I think I'm going to be like on chapter 4 or 5 before I even come to a realization. I'm like, oh, this is starting to seem familiar. Okay, but on a serious note, would I read it? I'd like to say no. I'd like to say I wouldn't, because I'd like to say that once I come to the realization that it is my story, I am at a point in my life right now where I've got a lot of things to look forward to. And I'm very, very excited for my short to medium to long distance future. And even what I've been doing in the past 3 years, at the risk of sounding a little bit narcissistic or flexing a bit, like, I've had a really cool time for a long time. And I don't want to remove that excitement from it. I really don't want to take anything away from it. Like would it have been as juicy to at the beginning of the season if you knew for sure City was going to win the treble? I don't know. Would it?
Nah,
Probably not. Eh?
not
You
at
know.
all. Not at
So
all.
I think I'd like to say no, but on the other hand, we are human beings, so I can't say for sure. Oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't. But I'm gonna go with no. How about you?
I'd also go no. I'm very inquisitive though, because I'd like to know what happens in the future. I just
Yeah.
like to know, man. I like to plan ahead, and I like to have things like sorted. So
Yeah.
that's one aspect for me that I try to uh, steer clear of as hard as it would be. But I wouldn't finish the story, and that actually brings us to our next part of this. So obviously that means there are still so many experiences, so many memories, so many things that you are
Yes.
yet to do that you haven't done or you haven't
Yes.
seen.
Yes.
Our bucket list. A bucket
Yes.
list. Have you made one before? Have you considered a bucket list? Is there 10 things I must do before I die somewhere in the Tyler archives?
Not as such. Not to such a degree, but like I haven't actually sat and written it out. But there's been things that have happened over the years where I've like sort of decided that that is something that that I want to do. So, for example, I'd like to go and watch all the big European leagues. Like I'd like to go watch a game in Italy, a game in Spain, a game in Germany, a game in France, and a game in the UK.
Yeah.
That I know for sure is on my bucket list. I want to eat pasta out of a piece of pecorino, or when they make the pasta in the wheel of cheese.
Things.
Yeah, I want to, and not even that it's a cheesy pasta, but just out of that wheel made by like I want it to be made by like an old Italian lady. That's on a bucket list for me.
I know now.
Yeah, like by a nonna, specifically by a nonna. So that's definitely on a bucket list for me. But I mean, we can go talk back and forth so we can see if that's something that we'd want. But also like the small things, like obviously going to see an Arsenal game live, and all these kinds of things. I will also premise and say that that a lot of these things are I'm on the cusp of I'm going on a big trip soon. So it's hard not to think about these things in the context of like it's like within
Now.
arm's reach,
Yeah.
But they definitely are bucket list things. How about you? Do you have an actual physical archive or
No
what?
physical one. There was a few that came and went throughout the years. So I'd always said, "Oh, I want to study/work overseas," and I'm currently doing that. It looks completely different to what I initially planned, and I'm grateful for that. I initially thought that it was a pipe dream. So all the things that were on my list were like, let's write it down, give myself something to look forward to, even if it doesn't necessarily materialize. But so many of these things have materialized. I wanted to see English football, English Premier League game live. Managed to do that.
You have been.
Wanted to go see a Champions League game live. Managed to do that. So from a footballing point of view, I've managed to see a lot. And I'm sure I'm so privileged in that regard. I still want to go and see a final, or a Champions League final, that is, and go to a World Cup that's outside of SA. Because both share how incredible the 2010 one was. So that's definitely. Other things away from sport, I want to open up a restaurant or a sports bar. Okay, I'll say sports bar. You, because you're the foodie. You're really okay. So let me say, for me, I want to set up a sports bar. Really comfortable.
What is this? What does it look like? What does the sports bar look like? Like, what's your vision?
Right, yeah, damn it. But I'll
say, is it that unique that it can be bitten?
I haven't seen it done yet.
Okay, so don't give us
whoever's gonna make it happen, just give me credit. But essentially, I'd have. So we obviously know what private cinemas look like, right? We each have those back kicker chairs, etc. But so you'd have that as a VIP room. You have like a private cinema section.
Okay.
But the general one would be almost like, how gamers have their screen set up. That's almost a semicircle.
Yes.
I'd have that with the actual seating. Do it almost like tier down. Almost like a grandstand, Coliseum.
Yeah.
So everyone has a seat and they have an armchair that they can sit. So no one's restricted in terms of viewing.
Yeah. Okay.
So everyone, imagine like a coliseum, and you
Yes.
have the Dolby Atmos that I spoke about previously.
Yes. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
are
The sound coming
within
from
the
the top.
game.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
are in the football game. But then
Okay.
I won't give too many details on the specifics of color layout.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Let's not
any
go
that
there.
goes with it. But imagine a coliseum.
Okay.
You're setting
Okay.
up for football. So that's
Just wonder what the socializing aspect, because sports bars are always like social, like that's what you. But you have an idea. You don't have to spoil
I
it.
have an
So
idea. I'll flesh
mine
it out.
is mine is more bistro styles that I want to do. So
Okay.
part of linked into this is that I'd on the bucket list is to kind of start my own, I guess, business to an extent. So and this is how I see it materializing. Is that I just want, and this is an idea that's been done by so many people that it can't really be stolen. So more bistro vibes, nice coffee. I like coffee, so like I'll do like a barista's course, something simple, like just like sandwiches, salads, just something easygoing. Since I started, when I was working at a place called the Leopard, shout out to the Leopard in South Africa. If anyone is looking for good food, it's not a restaurant anymore. It's more like a takeaway kind of, like Woolworths ready meals. It's more like that now. It's lit though. It's really good. I'd recommend it to anyone. But ever since then, I had like this idea that, I want to do this. And when I said that to my previous boss, he's like, are you crazy? Haven't you been working here for the past 5 years? Don't you see how difficult this is? But yeah, so I have bistro vibes. But
And are you the chef there? Are you designing the menu, or are you cooking as well?
No, like now we have insight because of the episode with Nato. Hey, I see I'm the head chef.
Blood.
I think I would be involved in it. Eventually you want to kind of step back and let it run itself, of course. But yeah, I want to be hands-on. I want to be involved, but I also want to I remember again at the Leopard, like our boss, Nick and Andrea, they always wanted to only employ students, and that created a real cool atmosphere that I would want, as well. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't just want to be alone. But it also links. Katya has an idea of what she wants, and I'm not going to spoil that for anyone, but the two ideas kind of link together, which is quite cool. Hopefully we can work together as husband and wife. Another bucket list thing, just one more career-based thing. Maybe you can give me a career-based one on your side, is I want to get into sort of curriculum development. So as part of what I want is to become like admin at a school. My current career trajectory has me doing relatively well, and I've had some opportunities in some leadership roles, and I'd like to continue that, but I want to go one step further, and I want to get involved in like, whether it be school-wide curriculum design and implementation, or bigger if it's national, like to create like, what did we use in South Africa? It was the OBE, and then it became CAPS. In America, they use Common Core Standards. So to create, design, and implement that, and then to teach teachers how to implement a curriculum. That's also kind of like a bucket list, a career bucket list thing. Do you have any career bucket list things that you see?
Where I see myself going, end goal. So next step for me would be in sports marketing. I think I've mentioned that previously. I'd like sports marketing. I'd love to be a part of the football side of things. So if you imagine like Nike campaigns, like the Switch, all of that kind of
Jogo Bonito
project. Yes. So having be a part of that creative process from inception to go live, I'd really love that. And I'd love to get insight into, and maybe this is just a passion project that I look into, but when we look at kits every season, I want to know who's part of the think tank that essentially gives a sign off on those.
Okay.
That idea.
All right.
It's really interesting to see the collaboration, obviously, in the fashion world and football. It always meets every year, every season. There needs to be new design. That's something I want to explore. End goal, I want to be in a consultant role. I think I'd like to probably potentially have my own business where we're essentially a think tank for a lot of businesses, and then run their marketing campaigns. So that's,
I think,
long.
That's quite cool, because that's like you never get bored, right? You never do the same stuff. So it's always different projects. I know people that are kind of in the not just marketing game necessarily, but like a lot of like in what even like Katya's interested in like consulting based work, you know, because it's more kind of exciting. I also wouldn't mind like doing a consultant based thing, like a case by case, you know, you come in, you do something like whether it be within the sector of education or something else. But that's the awesome thing. Hey, like life is like, it's such a cool thing. It takes you on so many paths, and you end up doing things that you never thought you would. You end up in spaces. But then let me ask you a question then. Have you achieved anything? And if it's football is the answer, but if on your bucket list, right, is there anything that you kind of feel like, you know, you already said like working abroad wasn't maybe what you thought it would be. But have you ever achieved anything or done something on your bucket list that you are like, there's a reason this is on my bucket list? I'm so grateful it was, and I'm so grateful that I worked so hard to achieve it. Like it blew your mind, like even more than you could have anticipated.
Ooh, great question. First thing that comes to mind is marrying my best friend. I think, as sentimental, as soft as that sounds, it's one of the things. Like, I think I'm in a very privileged position that not everyone gets to see their family. What's the good way to phrase this? I've been privileged enough to have my family see me do a really important step in my life. I think the reason I detail it this way is because for, let's say, matric dance as an example, matric dance is the first big occasion in your personal life that's almost quite flashy, quite grand.
Yes.
It's made an event out of. And my gran, who was the last living grandparent, passed a year before that. And I was like, yo. Well, she's seen everyone else's, and I think we all get into these practices. It almost becomes part of our tradition when these events take place. So, for example, when it's matric dance, always go to someone's house, the partners, then take photos. We have a bit of a light lunch canapé thing, and then you shoot off to the actual ceremony. So that happened for my brother, my cousins, etc. And when it was my time, I was like, oh, sad that she's not here. So the fact that I got my family to see me get married was a massive thing. And then marrying my best friend, it just culminated into something really special. Again, not how I'd initially seen it.
Yeah.
It went over and above what I had ever dreamed. The second part would be to complete a BSc. So
nice.
As academic as I was in school, I wasn't really the best or most comfortable with maths and science. Those were my subjects. And setting myself the target of completing a BSc that involved a lot of math, a lot of science and physics. That was really a personal accomplishment for me too.
Nice. Shout out to Miss Hollenbo.
Yeah.
Hey, she had our back there, man.
Hollenbo and Miss King, thank you so much for seeing me through physics, because I was below standard, well below standard. So all those extra lessons really went a long way for me. So thank you.
Okay, fresh. That's quite cool. I'd say for me, just simply, I kind of agree with you. Just like in terms of marriage, like it's always something I've wanted to do, and it's really something that I know it sounds lame, and lots of people say it. You really can't explain it to anyone, and you know, it's like you think it's easy. But it's not. It's a lot of hard work, you know, like it takes a lot, but it's really something that you can be proud of if you build it over time, you know. I more and more understand why it becomes difficult to like leave someone that you've been for such a long time. You know, if people ever look at it from the outside, and it's like, why wouldn't he just leave or she just leave? They're very unhappy. But when you realize like all the effort and stuff that you put into it, not that I'm even remotely thinking of anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it is really, really, I always wanted to get married, and I'm really not disappointed by what it's been. And then secondly, just I'd say living in Asia, man, has been like one of the coolest bucket list experiences for me. Yeah, it's turned out to be completely different, COVID and everything. But yeah, like I would say those are probably the two in a nutshell. But now, what about two more questions that we're going to discuss quickly? Do you have a reverse bucket list? Anything that you're like, oh, hell no, I would never, ever do that?
First and foremost, climb Everest. Guys, I know people always try and encourage us and say, you can do anything you want in the world. That's the ultimate test of mental and physical capacity for a human. You know, that's the ultimate sign that you have succeeded in life. If you can climb even just beyond base of Everest, you can conquer the world. That's not something I want to do. I had this very, what can I say? Interesting opinion of what winter is supposed to be like. It always seems so whimsical, like so much fun, snowfall. Oh, it's just like the movies. I'm not a fan of winter. I'm not a fan of snow. After experiencing it firsthand, because in SA we had sleet, and I was like, oh, this is cool, yeah. But once I got to experience actual snow consistently, no, that's not for me. And I don't think I have the physical capacity.
Good thing you moved to the United Kingdom, mate. Like that was a good move. Like
solid move on my side. Everest, number one. Number two, what's the swimming with sharks? What is it? Great white
like
shark caged.
Oh yeah, cage diving.
Shark cage. Never doing that. I've seen too many horror things on YouTube where a shark enters through the gaps in the cage. Not about that life, man. What about
for me, it's more like cave stuff. Like you know, people like go cave exploring and stuff like that. I'm like, nah. Like I really don't want to do stuff like that. Like nah. Like we went to Vietnam, and when we went there, we went to Ho Chi Minh and we went to the Chu Chi tunnels, right? And what they do is they take you everywhere, and they take you to these tunnels, and they're like, oh yeah, like you should go down here and you can crawl in the tunnel for like 10 meters. It's not so bad. You're just on all fours, you crawl through and you pop out on the other side. I'm like, you can do that. I'm not doing that. Like, and more I see like these things where people go like crawl through these small holes and they end up in these majestic, beautiful places and all these things. And I'm just like, no, like that's one of the last things ever that I ever really want to do. And I guess the other thing is like, it's not like so much on the reverse bucket list, but I've done it, but I don't want to do it again. Like, it's like party all night. I know I sound like an old man, but like, I'm just like, I'm done, man. Like this, it sounds like the least appealing thing to me ever. Like, oh, let's go out. The club opens at like 11 or 12, like in the days we used to go to Truth. I'm like, 11 or 12, I've already read for an hour and I'm sleeping now. Okay, so like all-nighters are no longer they would be on my, I guess, reverse bucket list.
And there's always that one friend, where to? Where's next?
Yeah.
It's 6 o'clock in the morning. Let's just go and
Home is next.
Exactly. Club Duvet, DJ Pillow, playing six set there, man. And it leads us to our last question. So our last question that we have was, if you have 24 hours to live, how would you spend it? If you were to map out an itinerary, what would it look like?
Okay.
It's a lot to try and summarize.
And it
keep a very high level overview.
Okay.
Trying to think how I can pack it all into one day. I would have to wake up in... See, the problem is travel.
24 hours starts when you wake up, right?
When you wake up.
Okay.
See, the problem is the travel. That's the real aspect to work around. So let me say... okay, let's take it. Fine, let's take Italy. Wake up in Italy. Lisa and I go for a tour at the Colosseum. We then go to have a massive brunch at a vineyard. That's
Okay.
accompanied by a wine tour, sampling all of the region's best wines. I then go to a daytime rave for,
Okay.
let's call it 2 hours.
All
At
right.
this rave, it's 1 hour of old school disco and funk music, house music. The second hour is more of the pop R&B. So we have singers and we have DJs.
Okay.
So the likes of Earth, Wind and Fire. I have Disclosure giving us a set. I'd have who else is a big name? I have Tom Mish playing as well on the
Nice.
songwriter side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that, and it'd be like, yeah, as I said, split in half like that. Then in the evening we would go have a gondola ride. So early
Okay.
evening, now like sunset,
Uh-huh.
golden hour time. Wrap up the day watching a Champions League final at the San Siro.
Sure.
Wow.
San Siro specifically.
San Siro specifically.
Okay, damn. Okay, so mine is completely different. Although I'm listening to yours, I'm like, mine sounds pop. But anyway, I would say I'd probably want to be like in the bush somewhere, like just at a nice like you get those really nice kind of big houses that have like a lapa outside, a nice deck, whatever. And it would really be quite a simple. The whole day would kind of just be the same thing, man. It would just like be a wake up in the morning, you together with all my family, with all like my closest friends, but in a way that, because it's your last day, you want it to be like kind of smooth, so it's like not too big a group, you know what I'm saying? Like just the right, like Goldilocks vibes, just the right amount of people. And then like throughout the day, just, man, I'm all about food. So just a cheese platter with some cold meats, and then later on, like a little bit of pasta. And that would be it, man. That would be my day. I would literally just want to do that the whole day and just have a wholesome time with the family. Although yours does sound sick, so maybe I should sign up for yours. But yeah, that would be, I know that sounds lame. I was reading up all these different things in preparation for this, and then there were some people that were like, oh, go for a midnight picnic or do like a guided meditation to help you find like a sense of inner comfort and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not scoffing at that, but like for me, I wouldn't want to be too busy. Sometimes I think like with birthdays, what I don't like about birthdays is that sometimes we get so excited and so hyped up and so amped up that it's the same with New Year's. You'll never live up to what you think it's gonna be. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm not saying that about your bucket list, your final day. That actually sounds really mad. But your birthday never lives up. It always, New Year's is the worst. It's the pinnacle of it never ever lives up to what you think it will.
Yeah.
It's really the worst. And that's why for New Year's, much like my final day, I always revert back to the same thing for New Year's. I'm like, let's stay at home. Let's make really nice food and let's stay awake late, like until after 12. Let's not wake up with a hangover on the 1st of January, although that's neither here nor there anymore because I don't drink anymore. But that's the whole thing now for me. So yeah, that would be my last 24 hours. And then I wanted to, so we don't always have wholesome stories and sometimes we struggle to find them. So we're going to do a new little thing where we give just one small piece of advice, something that we read or something that stands with us that week. And in closing, my piece of advice that I read, that I took to heart this week, is to make decisions that your 80-year-old self and your 10-year-old self would be proud of.
Oof.
Drop the mic.
That was,
and that's it from me.
Man. That was beautiful. What can I say? What can I say? It's tough that, except if this was your final 24 hours, I hope that you would be thoughtful enough to like, share, subscribe. In our honor, in our memory, get the vibe going, keep the vibe going. This is the big vibe for a reason. It keeps getting bigger and bigger, and that's to all your ears, eyes.
I really hope
Nothing with
people
us.
stay. I really hope people stay until this part of the episode where you and I find some way to drop in the. I really hope that someone is still listening and they're like, wow, these guys always find the craziest way to drop in. They do it so well. So yeah, keep vibing with us. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Cheers. Bye.